Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas with you this morning. We are so happy to have with us our friends from the Martin Center, founders Brenda and Terry Hunka. Good morning.
Good morning.
So for folks who don't know the story, the two of you really have quite a good story. It's got to be a movie someday. How did the Martin Center come about in its current state? How did you find it? What is it?
How did I find it?
How did you find it and turn it into what it is?
It's a pretty big building. It's
It
hard to
is.
miss. So I found it pretty easily.
And you were driving along, and there it was.
There it was. That's a great place.
But the Martin Center is what?
As best you can say, it's a community center for underprivileged and underserved teens in the central part of Canton, although we serve kids from all over Canton.
Okay, so more than just the southeast section of kids. Everybody
sure.
seems to have found it.
For sure. We have kids from all over.
And again, I take you back. How did you find it? How did you become involved with the Martin Center?
Well, as you know, we were in that business, so to speak, of serving youth. And we saw a ministry down in Kentucky that was called the Lord's Gym. You want to go?
Well, we were working mostly in South America, and then we started working in Kentucky, and we realized that there's so much poverty here in the United States, and a lot of people would say, oh, we would help your organization if you were doing something locally. Mm-hmm. And we came back, and we were, God was speaking to us about doing something locally, and our son was already doing some stuff, especially down in the Sherrick Road area, and it was quite intimidating for us to go down there. There's kids running everywhere, and we just didn't know how we could fit in. And then Terry came home one day and said, I found this building. A local businessman had told him about some empty school buildings, and I actually wouldn't even go with him for a couple weeks to look at it because I wanted to pray about it because he is the visionary and I'm the practical one. And so everyone has to have one of those.
It's a good match.
Yeah. So we prayed about it for a couple weeks before we went down and we saw the building. And when we walked in, and as soon as the gym lights came on, it was like, this is where we belong.
You just knew. Did you find that to be true? And I'm taking you back to your statement where you said we were doing things in South America and everybody said, oh, I'd love to partner with you, except it's so far away. I wish it were more local. Was that something that you feel people use as an excuse? Or did you feel that really was the
Actually,
reason
I think
people
it's
weren't?
an excuse sometimes because they didn't want to admit. I took one lady to Kentucky with us, and on the way down, we were telling her before we got there that there are people down there without running water, without electricity to their homes. They still have outhouses, and
Yes.
that there was areas like that. And she's like, well, there's nothing like that around here. And I'm like, oh, yes, there is. Wow. I said, we had one girl that our daughter-in-law was working with that hadn't had a hot shower in 2 years because they didn't have, hot water. We have a couple kids that we could name at the Martin Center that come there and take showers occasionally because they don't have running water in their homes. And this is in Canton. It's not, back in the mountains somewhere. This is downtown.
Yeah, and if you go 10 minutes up Market Avenue, you're in North Canton. You're in another world, aren't you?
Right.
The ages of children that you're serving are what?
We started out, our focus group was middle school to high school, early 20-somethings, but it has gone both directions. And we now house a school down there, and that starts at preschool or pre-kindergarten, I guess, and they have approximately 30 students down there that go from pre-K through, I think 11th grade is his oldest one at this time. And then we have other things going on. We have Word Women that reaches there's a lot of from Malone students to parents. And there's one grandma that comes, at least for the Bible study part. She doesn't always come for the workout part. So we have gone from just focusing on middle school and high school boys to crossing all borders in age and boys, girls.
And I know when you first opened, it was basically if you have a basketball court, they will come. That was
Yes.
that was
Yes.
the thing that was really the attraction there. But there's so much more going on there now. First of all, let's talk about the transformation. You walk into this old school building to turn it into what you found that day to what it is today. What all happened? What kind of renovations did you make on the building itself?
Well, unfortunately, we had to change the zoning to make it a community center. And with that, when you change the zoning, you have to bring everything up to current day codes. So we had to take a 100-year-old building and put in all of the current electric, the doors, the fire,
handicap bathrooms,
So a 100-year-old building, what was it being used for at the time, or was it just
It
abandoned?
had been empty for, I think, 4 years.
something
and
like that.
one of the
yeah.
schools that I know they're tearing down a number of the schools. Was this one on the shopping
It
mall?
was. That's
Yes.
that's what Michelle said. At the time, Michelle was the superintendent, and she said, we're selling, we're knocking down, and she named 4 different schools, and she said, why don't you go look at them? And so I went and looked at them, and Martin Center hadn't been broken into, hadn't been tagged, hadn't, it was
Tagged meaning?
spray painted with colors and stuff. It's just like God said, we're just going to save this right here for when Terry and Brenda get around to it.
It's almost now even like that has the Martin Center area and that block has like a little protective covering over it, isn't it?
I think it's interesting. There was a politician. I don't know what he was running for, mayor maybe or something, but he put out this piece that showed Canton has a gunshot ear on certain telephone poles and stuff. The police can tell where the gunshots came from, and they can zero in on that. Well, he had a map of where the gunshots were that past year, and there was this nice little circle of no gunshots right around where the Martin Center was.
Just an empty spot.
Just an empty spot. And I don't, we're not taking any credit for that or anything like that. I don't want to puff ourselves up by doing that. But,
that's remarkable.
Well, God's remarkable.
Yes, he is. And when you talk about the number of gangs represented, how many gangs represented
Well,
are
there's
the students? who are children
42
living?
gangs in Canton,
My
which
goodness.
it's probably more than that now. This was a year or so ago. I talked to a policeman that told me that. And at any one time, we probably have 10 maybe gangs represented.
But somehow
And-
they leave that all outside when they come in the doors?
They
Leave
leave
it
it
outside.
outside, and we don't even know which kids are and which kids aren't. Now, some of our leaders do. Some of them know them well enough that they know what to watch for.
Well, we know
But-
now.
Well, we know some
Some of them.
Some of them we know.
Yeah.
But you know what? To us, they're just kids that need attention. And, they will do things just to get your love and attention. And they're not these stereotypical things you see on these cop shows.
Right.
I mean, they have a heart. They just want to belong.
They call you mom.
Some of them do.
I
Some
love
of them
that.
call me the mean old white woman, I'm sure. Not to my face.
They say that in love, I'm sure. Terry, what do they call you?
The mean old white
No,
man.
I don't think so. But tell me about the kids.
Oh, there are just so many. There's kids that we've been down there for almost 6 years now, and watching some of them grow up has been amazing. Watching their lives change, and our children are having children, unfortunately, at a very young age. And so one of the other outreaches that we have now is at times they bring their kids and we watch their children while they're playing or doing, their workouts or whatever. But it gives us a chance to let them see how to treat their children. Some of them, one young man in particular, kind of creeped me out for a while because when our son Corey was down there, and every time the two of us were talking, he was just kind of lurking. And I'm like, so finally I just got up the nerve to go say, what is the deal? And he said, I want with my children what you guys have. I've never seen a family interact the way you interact. And he said, I want that with my kids. So, through Corey, through Garrett, myself, we've been able to talk to him about being a good father. Mm-hmm. And just seeing how you ask the kids what's wrong, not yell at them, boys don't cry. That was his thing. If one of his kids was crying, boys don't cry. We don't do that. No, the question is, hey, what's the matter?
Yeah.
What do you need? And a lot of times the children are hungry. And, feeding all ages makes a difference. A child acts out when they want to fit in, when they want to be heard. And a lot of times we find that once we get them fed, they're not going to listen to anything you have to say when they're hungry. Mm-hmm. And that's just been a big part.
Yeah, we none of us know what we don't know. So if you've never experienced that kind of relationship of a loving family, how do you then give that to the next generation? How do you do what you haven't had modeled for you? So how cool that they're seeing you all model that.
We've made an intentional effort to be Jesus, not to preach Jesus, because they're so far from that, But if we be Jesus, if we represent, so we go down there and we represent.
What I've noticed of the little children is they have no hesitancy to crawl up on your lap and want a book read.
No, none
They
whatsoever.
have not learned that fear yet, or whatever that thing is.
That's a learned behavior.
Yes, and they don't have it yet, thank goodness, because they do they are just so loving and huggy and craving of sitting on your lap and having a book read. It's neat to see. You said a couple minutes ago it's been awesome to watch the lives be changed. What kinds of changes have you seen in these lives?
You know what? I was just talking about that today, and we're going to have to take a break here in just a few
You're so bad. You already know how to do
this. But and I'll tell you that story right after we tell you that the purpose for this is to be at Hartville Kitchen on December 16th at 6 o'clock.
You got it. That's exactly right.
And you're going to hear more about the Martin Center and just hear all
and
stories.
And hear that story, I hope, as well.
You're going to hear a video that's going to blow your socks off.
Okay, yes. We did invite you here today with Ulterior Motives because I'm going to put it out there. We wanted to do a fundraiser at the Martin Center and get more and more people to see the awesome stuff taking place, how you are serving urban youth and making such a change in our community by serving the urban youth, and invited everybody to come to the Martin Center, and it's pretty hard to get people to come to 3rd Street Southeast. I'm sorry. That's just the way it was.
Yeah.
So we thought, where will people come? People will come to Hartville Kitchen.
Yeah, I'll go to Hartville Kitchen.
So, yes, we're going to have a dinner at Hartville Kitchen, December 16th, 6 o'clock. We'll find out more about that. We're visiting with Terry and Brenda Hunkov of the Martin Center. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.